Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully. Most people don't realize this, but adversity doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to reveal you. Every storm in your life is a test, not of your weakness, but of your potential. And the reason the pressure is so intense right now is because the treasure inside you is greater than the attack outside you. You see, pressure only comes where there is value. Nobody digs where there is no gold. Nobody fights for what has no future. The resistance you feel is not proof that God has abandoned you. It's proof that you're carrying something worth fighting for. I want you to hear this clearly. The presence of adversity is not the absence of destiny. As a matter of fact, the size of your struggle is often the measure of your assignment. What you're facing right now may feel like a setback, but it is really a setup for your breakthrough. You were never designed to quit. You were built with divine intention, crafted with purpose, assigned with a mission before you ever showed up in your mother's womb. That's why the enemy is threatened by your survival. Because he knows if you ever get up and keep moving, something powerful is going to break loose in your life. Let me remind you, eagles are not afraid of storms, they ride them. The storm that was meant to drown you is the very thing God will use to lift you. Adversity reveals potential, not weakness. That's a truth many people fail to grasp. Because we've been conditioned to see hardship as punishment or failure. But what if I told you that the very challenge you're facing is heaven's announcement that there's more in you than you thought? When God allows adversity, He is not trying to break you down. He is trying to bring something out of you. The fire you're in right now is not sent to consume you, but to refine you. Think about the seed. No one sees the greatness of a tree when it's still in seed form. It's small, buried, covered, and invisible. But deep inside that seed is a forest. And how does that potential get released? Pressure, darkness, resistance. The soil pushes back. The roots strain to grow downward, while the stem fights to break through the ground. The adversity that surrounds the seed is the very thing that activates its purpose. You are the same. Could it be that the resistance you feel is not because you're weak, but because you're pregnant with something powerful? Have you ever asked yourself why your life seems to attract so much pressure? Why the attacks seem so personal and the obstacles so relentless? It's not because you're cursed, it's because you carry purpose. And purpose always invites opposition. The enemy is not threatened by who you are now, he's threatened by who you're becoming. Let's go to scripture. Joseph was hated by his brothers not because he did something wrong, but because he carried a dream. The pit, the betrayal, the prison, none of these were signs of failure. They were evidence that God had marked him for something greater. Every act of adversity was pushing him closer to the palace. What if your current pain is the doorway to your greatest assignment? God never tests emptiness. He doesn't put pressure on something that has no worth. The furnace is always heated for precious metals, not for trash. The potter doesn't spend time shaping useless clay. The fact that you are in the fire means there is something in you that God is trying to shape, refine, and prepare. The pressure is not personal, it's purposeful. In real life, you can't build strong muscles without resistance. No one gets stronger by sitting still. It takes weight. It takes pressure. It takes the discomfort of pushing beyond limits. Could your adversity be your spiritual gym? Could your tears be watering something powerful in you that has not yet bloomed? I'm talking to someone who's been questioning their value based on the intensity of their trial. You've asked, why me? But maybe the real question is, why not me? Why shouldn't God trust you with trouble, knowing that what's in you can handle it? He promised in 1 Corinthians 10:13 that he will not allow you to be tempted or tested beyond what you can bear. That means if it's in front of you, it's already proof you're equipped to handle it. What if adversity is the mirror showing you the potential you've never seen? What if the thing that was sent to break you is actually the thing that will build you? Don't curse your storm. Don't run from your challenge. Don't bury your dream just because life got hard. Stand strong, because the adversity you're facing is not revealing how weak you are. Your breakthrough is on the other side of your endurance. Pressure targets value. Your struggle confirms your significance. When you understand this, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is in me that this pressure is after? Because pressure never shows up where there's nothing valuable. Nobody robs an empty vault. Nobody digs in a field unless they believe there's treasure underneath. And if life has been pressing you, pushing you, and testing you lately, it's because there is something inside of you that's worth the fight. Let's go deeper. Diamonds don't form in comfort. They're created under extreme pressure and high temperature, buried deep within the earth where no one can see them. And the longer they stay under that pressure, the purer and more valuable they become. Isn't it amazing that the very force we try to avoid is the same force that creates the rarest things on earth? Pressure does not destroy purpose. It exposes it. It doesn't come to kill what's in you. It comes to prove that what's in you is real. The Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 4:8-9, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed but not in despair, persecuted but not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. That verse tells you something powerful. Pressure may surround you, but it cannot define you. The presence of struggle is not the absence of God. It's a confirmation that you are still standing because God is with you. Joseph felt pressure when he was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, lied on by Potiphar's wife, and left in prison. But every level of pressure was pushing him closer to purpose. The throne didn't come after comfort. It came after a process. Some of us want the reward without the resistance, but God uses pressure to purify what's inside us and to reveal the gold that trials cannot destroy. Look around your life right now. What is pushing you? What is stressing you? What are you constantly fighting to survive? Could it be that these things are not proof of your weakness, but signals of your value? Pressure comes where there's promise. The reason the enemy is applying so much force is because you're carrying something that he's terrified of seeing fulfilled. Let's talk real life. In aviation, the higher a plane goes, the greater the pressure difference between the inside and the outside. So engineers designed the aircraft to withstand that internal and external strain. Why? Because elevation demands construction. You can't go higher if you can't handle pressure. God builds you based on the altitude he's taking you to. So if the pressure has increased, maybe your promotion is near. Maybe heaven is upgrading your capacity. Think of a mother in labor. The closer she gets to the moment of delivery, the more intense the pain becomes. The contractions increase, the discomfort rises, but she endures because something valuable is about to be birthed. The pain is proof that life is on the way. What if the pressure in your life is not punishment, but labor pains. So now I ask you, will you fold under the pressure, or will you let it remind you of your worth? Will you interpret the struggle as a sign of defeat, or will you let it testify that you carry something worth attacking? You weren't designed to collapse under the weight. You were designed to rise through it. Don't curse your pressure. It's a signal that you matter. Destiny is often disguised in difficulty. That's why you can't judge your future based on your present struggle. What you're going through may not look like purpose, but it may be the very process that leads you there. God rarely introduces destiny looking like destiny. He wraps it in situations that force you to grow, to stretch, to believe, and to trust beyond your comfort. The path to your purpose won't always feel prophetic. It may feel painful, but hidden in that pain is the preparation for something greater than what you see now. Moses was destined to be a deliverer, but he spent 40 years in the wilderness, far from the palace he once knew. That didn't look like destiny. It looked like exile. But it was in the desert that Moses learned how to lead sheep before he led people. It was in obscurity that he developed the endurance and humility necessary for his assignment. If God had sent him too early, he would have led with pride instead of purpose. So God used difficulty to shape destiny. Let's be honest. Some of you are in situations that feel like dead ends. You've been trying to stay faithful, but all you see is confusion. You've been praying, but the answers seem delayed. Could it be that God is not denying you, but developing you? Could it be that he's hiding your destiny in difficulty so that when you rise, you'll be ready for what you've been called to carry? Even Jesus, the very Son of God, did not step into his public ministry until after facing 40 days of fasting and temptation in the wilderness. The Spirit led him there, not the devil, the Spirit. Why? Because before the crown comes the cross. Before elevation comes preparation. God will often allow difficulty to go ahead of destiny so that your character doesn't collapse under your calling. Real life tells the same story. Ask any successful entrepreneur, athlete, or leader, and they'll tell you what shaped them most wasn't comfort, but crisis. It was the sleepless nights, the rejections, the failures, and the pressure that built the discipline to stand tall. Diamonds are not formed on the surface. They are found in deep, dark, pressurized places. So why would your destiny be any different? Think about David. He was anointed to be king, but he didn't go to the throne the next day. He went back to the fields. He killed Goliath and still had to run for his life from Saul. For years, his life was full of caves, betrayals, and battles. And the kingship. But what seemed like delay was actually design. Every step through difficulty was a step toward destiny. Here's the question: can you trust God when the journey doesn't look like the promise? Can you hold on when the prophecy feels like it's going in the opposite direction? Because the truth is, God often leads you through the valley before he brings you to the mountain. Psalm 23 says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. It doesn't say you'll stay in the valley. It says you will walk through it, which means the valley is not your destination. It's just part of the process. If you're facing difficulty right now, don't assume that you've missed your destiny. It may be closer than you think. God's way is not always the fastest, but it is always the most faithful. And he knows how to use every detour, every delay, and every disappointment to get you to the place he prepared for you before you were even born. Your breakthrough is coming. Hold your ground. You are divinely designed to withstand and overcome. That truth alone should change the way you see every trial in your life. You were not created to collapse under pressure or retreat in fear. You were created in the image of God, breathed into existence by the very Spirit that raised Christ from the dead. That means resilience is in your DNA. Victory is in your spiritual bloodline. You are not ordinary. You are not a mistake. You are not too weak to make it. You are divinely engineered to rise even when everything around you says you should fall. When God formed you, he didn't make you fragile. He made you intentional. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That means nothing in your life is accidental. Not your birth, not your battles, not your current season. If you're facing it, it's because God has already placed within you the strength to survive it. Think about Noah. God gave him a massive assignment to build an ark before anyone had ever seen rain. And not only that, but to withstand the judgments of an entire generation. Yet God didn't just give him a mission. He gave him the exact dimensions, instructions, and materials to build something that could float in a flood. That ark didn't sink because it was built according to divine specs. You are the same. You are built to float in what others drown in, not because of your own strength, but because of the God who designed you. Now ask yourself this: if God saw fit to form you, assign you, and breathe life into you, why would he abandon you in your adversity? Why would he put potential in you and not prepare you to protect it? He wouldn't. The problem is not your capacity, it's often your confidence. You've forgotten what you're made of. You've been focused on what you're made of. You've been focused on what you're going through, not on what's being placed inside you. Ephesians 6 tells us to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Notice it doesn't say be strong in your emotions or your circumstances. It says be strong in his power. That means your endurance is not dependent on how you feel. It's rooted in who you are. Let's bring it closer to real life. Take a look at a palm tree. In the middle of a hurricane, it may bend, but it doesn't break. Why? Because of how it's rooted. Its flexibility allows it to move with the wind, but its roots keep it grounded. And after the storm passes, that same tree stands back up again. What a picture of you. You may bend under the pressure. You may sway in the storm. But if you're rooted in God, you will not break. You will bounce back. Even Jesus, in his most human moment, prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane with blood and sweat pouring from his body. He asked the Father to remove the cup of suffering, but still declared, "Not my will, but yours be done." That's not weakness. That's divine strength in human form. That's proof that real power doesn't always look loud. It looks like obedience under pressure. That's what's in you. So I ask you, what would happen if you stopped doubting your design and started trusting your divine makeup? What would change if you believed that God didn't just call you, but equipped you? What doors would open if you stood not in fear, but in the confidence of your calling? You've been built for this moment. Don't bow to it. Storms are not obstacles, they are platforms for elevation. That sounds strange at first because storms are often violent, unpredictable, and overwhelming. They shake the ground beneath us, test the limits of our endurance, and threaten to undo everything we've worked for. But in the kingdom of God, storms don't just come to destroy, they come to lift. What looks like chaos on the surface may actually be the wind beneath your destiny. What if the storm you're in right now is not meant to sink you, but to set you on a new level? Jesus once told his disciples, let us go over to the other side, Mark 4:35. That was a divine instruction, a promise. But in the middle of their journey, a storm arose, a fierce one that caused seasoned fishermen to panic. Isn't that how life works? God gives you a word, you step out in obedience, and suddenly a storm shows up. Not because you're out of God's will, but because you're on your way to fulfilling it. What's powerful is that Jesus was in the boat, yet the storm still came. That teaches us something critical. The presence of God does not exempt you from storms, but it guarantees you authority in the midst of them. The disciples woke Jesus shouting, Master, don't you care that we perish? But Jesus rose, spoke to the storm, and there was calm. Then he turned to them and asked, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? That moment was more than a weather event. It was a leadership lesson. The storm wasn't meant to drown them. It was meant to reveal to them what kind of authority they had access to. Could it be that your current storm is not about destruction, but about revelation? Maybe God is using it to show you that what you carry is greater than what you're facing. In nature, thermals, rising currents of warm air are used by eagles to soar higher without flapping their wings. They don't fight the wind, they ride it. They understand how to use what's against them to elevate them. What would happen if you stopped fighting your storm and started using it? What if the very opposition that's coming against you is the very thing that will lift you into your next season? Sometimes we pray away the very thing that's been sent to position us. David faced a storm named Goliath, but that storm became the doorway to the throne. He didn't become a king because of comfort. He became a king because he faced something bigger than himself and stood his ground. That giant was not his barrier, it was his platform. Paul and Silas found themselves in prison for preaching the gospel, a storm of injustice and confinement. But at midnight, they chose to worship. And in that storm, God sent an earthquake, not to destroy them, but to shake the foundations and open every locked door. Their storm became their stage. Could it be that the shaking in your life is not a sign of abandonment, but a signal that something is about to break open? You've been praying for promotion, for clarity, for elevation, but maybe you didn't realize that the storm would be the vehicle. The wind that's blowing against you may actually be carrying you to your next assignment. The key is not to run from it, but to rise in it. The storm isn't your enemy, it's your elevator. Don't curse the wind, it's taking you somewhere. So as you stand in the midst of pressure, adversity, and storms, remember this: you are not here by accident, and your pain is not in vain. Every trial you faced, every battle you fought, every tear you've cried, they've all been shaping you, strengthening you, and setting you up for a breakthrough that's already in motion. You are built for this. You are chosen for this. And no matter how fierce the storm or how deep the valley, your destiny is still intact. Refuse to bow to fear. Refuse to shrink in the face of difficulty. Stand strong, because your breakthrough is not just coming, it's already unfolding. You may not see it yet, but heaven is working behind the scenes, orchestrating your elevation. Trust the process. Keep walking in faith, and remember, Storms don't last, but God's promises do. Thank you for listening. I believe in you, and more importantly, God believes in you. Keep standing, keep pressing, and don't ever forget your breakthrough is on the way. Good luck on your journey, and may grace and strength follow you every step of the way. Thank you.